All right, before I start today's video, I need to say something that I haven't said enough. Names and locations have been changed to protect the guilty. All these stories are based on true stories. The facts have just been obscured because there are too many snowflakes in this world that can't handle this content. With that said, I was kind of brainstorming before I started this video, and I asked GPT what would be some very unique prompts to use as the speaker for this style of content I create. Because I typically write it from the perspective of a 25-year-old woman. She can be a school teacher, a Harvard professor, an astronaut. This morning's video was made from the perspective of a girl working at Walmart. But as you guys can see up on the screen, there is a lot of very unique ones. So this one's going to be written from the perspective of a delusioned billionaire's daughter. My next video is going to be written from the perspective of a minimum wage fortune teller. And I don't know how I'm going to use these interchangeably. But let's get into today's video by getting into our opening monologue. They keep telling us that this is the greatest country on earth. But according to who? Exactly. Because if greatness means working 3 jobs and still needing to Venmo your friend for gas, I'm not impressed. We've confused patriotism with Stockholm Syndrome and freedom with unaffordable insulin. At some point, you have to stop waving the flag and ask, what's it actually covering up? So this idea came from a person who left a comment, and I love using your guys' comments for video content because you guys write me some of the best stuff. Like Darius given 6570, I'm butchering this. He wrote, I think you just wrote this kind of strange. I'm tired of hearing how this is the greatest country in the world. Well, 90% of the population is struggling for the basics. People are afraid to get sick because healthcare costs are so high, and owning a home will never happen. Those are the kinds of comments that I see almost every day. They're dark, they're abysmal, and more and more people are coming to the conclusion that this isn't such a good time to be alive. Well, it's never a good time to be alive if you're not going to be rich. I'll tell you that from a person who's lived in pretty much poverty my whole life. I mean, I come from a place with no running water or electricity, and we didn't have a grocery store. If we couldn't create it on the farm, we didn't have it. And that's how I lived the first 6 years of my life. Complete and total poverty in a remote place in Latin America. All right, let's get into talking point number 1. America constantly claims to be the best without receipts. It's like washed up pageant queen still wearing her crown from 1996. We don't lead in healthcare, education, happiness, or life expectancy. But we do lead in incarceration, gun biting it, and debt. So who exactly declared us greatest? Ourselves in the mirror while crying in a Chili's parking lot? This reminds me of a show called The Newsroom that was on HBO. The main character of that show basically had this same speech in one of the first episodes. Who decided that America was the best place on earth? Remember, if you're poor regardless of what's around you. Right now, if I walk down the street to the Circle K and I ask the colorful character outside waiting to run inside to sneak a beer if this is the greatest country on earth, they're going to look at me like I'm stupid. Why? Because it's delusional to believe that this is the greatest country on earth. You and I have both seen what happens when you lose your job and you can't find another one. My friend, you just earned a year and 1 month submitting application after application after application for work, and no one will hire her. She's actually starting school. She decided to continue to try to look for work, but just not sitting around wasting her time. So she decided to go back to school, which I was against, but here we are. What are you supposed to do when no one will call you back for a job? And it's not like you don't want to work. You want to work, but you want to be treated with respect. You want the dignity of being a human being, and you want your boss to stop whipping you in the back for slowing down or not smiling. If everything about the workplace sucks, and then you wonder why workers don't want to work, and the workers that did want to work, you kicked out of this country because you wanted Americans doing those jobs. I don't get this country. No one wants to do those jobs, yet they don't want the people here that do those jobs. Who else is going to pick your fruit and work in the meat packing industry? Who's going to work in a warehouse for minimum wage? This country has a real identity problem. And its identity is it believes that you're not poor. And that's actually the title of my next video that I'm going to be making that you guys are probably going to see on Tuesday or Wednesday. Not sure how I'm going to put up my future videos, but this weekend I have to get some videos up because as you guys saw yesterday, I got home and I looked at my fish tanks and I was like, oh God, I couldn't stand looking at them. And I thought I could do water changes really quick. And then that turned into redesigning the hardscape inside of the aquarium. So I moved some logs and in and out, or sticks in and out of them. It looks really cool. If I remember, I'll put up a picture of it at the end of the video so you guys can see what I made. But that situation should have never happened. I should have had a backup video ready to go. But unfortunately, I woke up late yesterday morning because I stayed up too late. And staying up too late so often, it's not like me to stay up late. To me, staying up late is staying up past 8 p.m. because I want to get up early, work on YouTube, and then go work out all before work, but it's just not happening. It's the depression. It starts to take a toll on your mind when you have to keep going to the same place for those unlivable wages. Working at McDonald's isn't really something that anyone wants to do. And it's unfortunate because some of the people there actually buy into what the media is telling you. You know what happened yesterday when they released the jobs reports? And it showed an economy in crisis is what the jobs report showed. That's why the Dow Jones sank, because the reality is something that they don't want to show you. You and I don't ever want to believe that unemployment is at 4% while you're functionally unemployed. What does that mean? You don't make enough money to live. That's what functionally unemployed is. If you're spending 80 to 90% of your income just on rent, you're functionally unemployed. And if you take that statistic alone, you're going to have an 80 to 90% unemployment rate across the entire country. Because being employed used to mean something like owning a home, spending maybe 10 to 15% of your monthly income on rent. Now, lose your job and you become homeless. You're always one paycheck away from becoming homeless. And as I've told you guys before, these homeless agencies, the people that work for them are in the same boat. You're not immune to being homeless just because you help the unfortunate. You could very easily become the victim of the very thing that you were supporting. Talking point number 2. The American dream is a rigged lottery where 1% wins and the rest keep buying tickets with what's left of their paycheck. The rich sell the fantasy. The middle class clings to it out of fear. And the working class is told to be grateful they even exist under capitalism. Hard work pays off is the bait. Despair and debt are the catch. Nothing is more representative of this situation between the working class and capitalists. The capitalists will tell you every day that hard work means that someday you will be part of his class. But that's not real. It takes me back to that example of that millionaire who owned that small business, that landscaping business, who kept wondering why he couldn't attract good work and why no one would stay at that job. Simply put, when you're running an evil corp, even a little tiny one, even if you only have 10 to 15 workers, you're still exploiting the crap out of them. You're trying to get as much labor out of them as humanly possible so that you can be rich. You're not improving the quality of their lives in any conceivable way. Because chances are, in order to keep your profits as high as possible, you're not providing your employees health benefits, you're not giving them flexible hours, and the conditions, the physical conditions of working for landscaping is brutal. You're outside, and it's 110, 115 degrees out there. It's not conducive to healthy people. I mean, it's 9:30 right now, and it's already 100 degrees. That's not even peak heat. It's still going to turn up. But that owner doesn't care. Your misery, your suffering, your pain are baked right into his master plan to become a millionaire from his business by the end of the year. And next year, if he doesn't see record profits, and this is all evil corps, this is all pound towns, this is all McDonald's, if they don't see year to year record profits, they will close the location. When I worked at Walmart, it was almost a daily thing. They kept a running record of how much money that store made last year on that exact same day. And the goal every single day that you go to work there is to make more money than you did last year. If it's not capable of doing that, the store shuts down and they go try somewhere else. That's why in this country, we're going to see a loss of major amounts of grocery stores. Because what do we know about grocery stores in lower tier communities? These people aren't going to be able to spend their food stamps because someone said no. Helping the poor is as popular as getting gonorrhea. Nobody wants it, but everybody wants to play. And there must be losers. And, the Crotch Krispies, they're the gift that keeps on giving. But with that said, let's get into talking point number 3. Land of the free sounds nice until you realize you need a GoFundMe to survive a car crash. True freedom would mean healthcare without bankruptcy, housing without general wealth, and wages that actually buy something. Instead, freedom here means you're free to drown quietly, as long as you don't question the lifeguard with a flag tattoo. That's what you want. A guy with an American flag tattoo across his chest, watching over you, making certain that you don't drown. But in a system that counts on you drowning. Because remember, in 2008, the banking industry gambled on these predatory loans, giving them to people. And once they drowned, what happened? The market crashed. Why? Because you intentionally did this. Pound Town isn't gentle. Pound Town doesn't care if you cry. Pound Town likes it when you cry. When you keep going to work and you're utterly depressed and you look at your paycheck and you wonder, what am I supposed to do? You just keep coming back to work. Remember, put the fries in the bag, little bro. Even if you're 40 with a college degree. And this is the best job that you can get is working at McDonald's. And if you're like me, when they gave me that first Happy Meal toy, I took it and I threw it in the trash. Right in front of the person that handed it to me. And I was like, you're not going to do this. I am not a child. I get paid like a child. I get treated like a child, but you're not going to hand me a McDonald's Happy Meal toy and tell me to smile more. It doesn't work like that. I've met so many people at work that have prizes at work. And there was one really depressing one where they, in their commissary, we'll call it that, they had ramen as a treat for the workers. And I know so many people that actually survive off eating ramen for at least one meal a day, at least one, but more than likely to, if not most of their food is ramen. And to go to work and be given more ramen, what does that tell you? How are you supposed to interpret that kind of failure? How are you supposed to come to terms that you're a grown man? You're over 40 years old and someone's still handing you a 25-cent brick of ramen like you're actually in prison. Because in prison, ramen is considered a high value item. But it looks like in our desperation society, we basically are in an open air prison. You're allowed to leave your cell to go to work. You're going to the prison yard. You work, you come back, you live on that cell block. Like, it was one of the most depressing things in the world at my last apartment complex. The apartment complex was actually built like a prison. These aren't homes. They're prison cells. Renting a tiny apartment in a rundown part of town, it's just their mini prisons without the bars surrounding them. But you try to get out of place and they will put you down. Why? Because they need you to keep believing in the system. The capitalists have to keep you motivated. You know, people ask me all the time, it's like, why do people keep participating? Well, as I said in an example last week, I was at the pet store with a friend, and she told me she wanted to set the parrot free. And I said to her, you know he's just going to die, right? And that's what the corporations know about the proles. If you open the door to the corral, the proles don't know how to get water. They don't know how to grow food. They don't know what they'll do for money. The system would fail without the evil corporations. We need it to feed us. We need it to give us work. We need it so that we can continue this life. We can't just all go into the country and do a reverse industrial revolution where we all go back out to the fields. It doesn't work like that anymore. And this is the problem with the way that our current government functions. We live in a global community. You can't just cut yourself off from free labor in the Asian countries and say, well, we'll make Americans do it. It doesn't work that way. You're a global community. It's not just America. No one's going to roll up their sleeves to go work in a factory. No one wants to do those crappy jobs. No one wants to work at McDonald's. When I wake up in the morning, the first thing that happens is I close my eyes and I think to myself, not again. And then I bring my hand to the back of my body and I rub the little spot where you get hurt. And then you close your eyes again and you're there. You open up your eyes and you're standing there at work, butt slightly hinted up, legs down, tighty whities around the ankles, and it's time to work. You can't escape that. All right, let's get into our closing monologue. If America wants to keep calling itself number one, it's time to defend that title, not with fireworks or slogans, but with facts and compassion. Because right now, the only thing we're number one in is denial. Greatness shouldn't be a costume you put on every 4th of July. It should be a reality every citizen can feel, not just the ones born with a trust fund and a passport. Ooh, that's a bold statement right there. I don't know about you guys, but I haven't felt good about life in a long time. In fact, I was getting messages a little while ago from an acquaintance who thinks that she can't do this anymore. She finds no reason to continue and is deeply considering the ultimate solution because she doesn't want to work. She doesn't want to participate. She just wants to be left alone. And this world won't leave you alone because if you're not moving for the corporations, then you have no value. This is, again, why we don't help the homeless. Why would you help a portion of the population that refuses to be exploited? That's what it comes down to. Anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully we have more interesting conversation now that I'm going to be using all these weird prompts that I showed you guys. Anyhow, I gotta go do chores. I will catch you guys in the next video.